Sometimes it pays to get in on the ground floor, even if a game's still unfinished. Imagine laying down the first ever shelter in Valheim, or being the first to lay down a zombie with a headshot in DayZ. And it's not just about bragging rights. Games are often cheapest in early access, and you get a front row seat to watching a masterpiece grow. As such, we've picked out the most promising projects launching in early access next year, so that you can get on board early with the next PC phenomenon. And if you want to further immerse yourself whilst playing any of these games, then be sure to grab the Lytra Beam LX that will sync up to your game and illuminate your space with LightSync RGB accent lighting. The survival genre is the bread and butter of early access, though you'll be lucky to find butter in any of these resource-challenged open worlds. First up is Enshrouded, a co-op adventure shared with up to 16 players. With its mystical dungeons and combat against skeletons, it takes a leaf from the Book of the Elder Scrolls. Though again, books are always a pain in the knee to make in these games, aren't they? So much paper, so many trees. That said, the trailer also features grappling hooks and wingsuits. Now there's a real incentive to advance beyond boiling soup and gathering twigs. Of course, open world crafting games don't have to lean into the misery of surviving on scraps. Take Palworld, which takes plenty of cues from the soothing sights and sounds of Pokemon and Zelda. Expect flights to distant towers on the backs of cute hybrid creatures. The sort of creatures that suggest a quiet history of unregulated genetic meddling, if you ask us. But what do we know? Okay, so the influences are clear. But then again, we spotted a giant yellow Totoro with a Gatling gun. So don't go assuming you know what Palworld's about before you jump in. Incidentally, Palworld sounds a lot like Friendzone, so maybe we shouldn't expect any romance options. As we've seen, plenty of multiplayer games make use of early access to test the limits of their servers. But some solo games also benefit from a troop of players coming in to push every button and see what breaks. Unforetold Witchstone is an RPG in the vein of Baldur's Gate 3. Its creators want to find out how players interact with its NPCs. These are deeply simulated characters who on properties have likes and dislikes, and react to your actions over time. As it turns out, Witchstone has one very specific thing in common with Baldur's Gate 3. Its universe was invented by the fantastically bearded fantasy author Ed Greenwood. But players are invited to step in and decide what happens next to the world Ed created. You've seen farming games, you've seen mech games, but probably not in the same sandbox. Lightyear Frontier asks you to climb into the big metal exoskeleton and tend to your crops on the far edge of the galaxy. That means watering and fertilising your fields, but also uncovering the ancient secrets of an unexplored world. You might expect that world to be hostile, but Lightyear Frontier prides itself on a peaceful, relaxing experience. The challenge comes instead from living at one with this alien ecosystem. You'll be clearing up pollution and replacing the trees you pull down. All in your mech. Honestly, it's about time tractors were upgraded for the 22nd century. Dead Cells has sold over 10 million copies, so it's fair to assume that another roguelike from the same developer will also set the world on fire. This one is called Windblown, and intends to introduce a new focus on speed to the genre. As a leaper, you'll flip between floating islands to do battle with the sentinels from the Vortex. Misjudge a single dash and you'll end up cutting two. But over time, you'll memorise enemy movements and learn the rhythm of these brutal battles. Or maybe just recruit a friend online who's better at all that stuff. Mind you, games have changed since Dead Cells first arrived. Today you can have a post-apocalypse that's also cosy. In Critter Cove, you can go down on diving expeditions into long-lost cities swallowed by the sea. But rather than dwell on the mistakes of your past, you can use the treasures of the old world to spruce up your island. If you can turn things around, Critter Cove will become a travel destination for tourists attracted to the pristine beaches. Those funds can then be used to further upgrade the town. It's hard work, but you're also basically living on holiday, so what's to complain about? If you fancy doubling down on desert islands and ocean views, you could book yourself in for Voyagers of Nera. Coming to early access sometime this year, this is yet another survival and crafting game for up to 16 players. But rather than scraping together an existence in the soil, here you'll be skimming across the waves on surfboards and catamarans. Once you reach faraway lands, you'll find enormous leviathans and fight villagers under threat. On your own island, you'll be bonding with a local spirit, tending to the land and supporting a community. The building system looks particularly potent, empowering you to create dream homes rather than ramshackle huts. For our final entry, here's something completely different. A co-op construction game where you lay the track before an oncoming train. Your goal is to clear the way through a procedurally generated landscape so that the train can reach its destination without plunging into a voxel lake or mountain. You can even do it competitively in versus mode. Again, it's a terrible indictment of safety standards in the rail industry, but it looks like fun, so who's going to say it's wrong? You know, all that survival and crafting is infectious. We're off to craft ourselves a coffee to survive the day with. But we'll be back soon with another video stuffed with game recommendations. If you like this one, feel free to give us a like. And if you like more, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Bye for now.